We have 32 participants. That's awesome.
Everybody seems to be fine. So we have people here from Kenya, Poland, Bhutan, Nepal, India, Armenia. So it seems like everybody is from somewhere else. So that's good. So that's Armenia. So we have a full spectrum. So anyway, today's meeting is relatively informal. So during the theory phase, we're going to have these meetings every week for the academy students only. So only for the professionals and the pre-college teams. So basically non-student participants. Once you pass all your theory tests, once you're placed on teams on October the 4th, we will merge you with the university students. There will be several thousand of them, and we'll keep doing these weekly review sessions, but together with the university students, they may have questions about their teams and some other things. So we will do it jointly. And so for now, we will focus more on sort of what in the United States we call office hours. So that's your access to the professors, to the administrators, to ask questions to make sure that everything's clear. But again, once you're placed on teams, we actually will have a series of guest speakers, different professors, business experts, who will talk about different topics related to international business. Leilani, you had a few speakers in mind already, right?
I do. What I want to see first is how many students apply to be virtual tours.
Virtual that invitation yet, so
you haven't sent that
we will talk about it today. Let's discuss it today so students know what that is, and I'll follow with an invitation.
Okay. So and the reason we talked about this in the orientation, we decided not to send it during the week that you guys were being bombarded with the information on session 1, or I'm sorry, theory phase 1, and then also to take your quiz. So we didn't want to overwhelm you with too much information, so we held that back. But what you will be receiving, and let's go ahead and do it today, Vas.
Okay, all right.
Today or tomorrow. Yeah, we
okay. Sign up form, so not a problem at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And basically you will get an email that's going to invite you to either be a virtual tour guide of your country or your area, and a virtual cooking demonstrator. So if you want to demonstrate a special dish from your country, and provide us with a shopping list so that everybody can follow along, that would be awesome. We also have a virtual pen pal program, or just the pen pal program that you'll be able to sign up for, and we'll pair you with a student from another part of the world, around your age, probably the same gender, in order for you to get to know each other. And this student will not be a part of your virtual team. So it's an even bigger opportunity for you to get to know somebody on a more personal level and understand the cultural values of their countries. So that's what's going out today. So with regards to the week.
Can we talk a little bit more about this program? So I personally find it very interesting. It was Dr. B's idea, but I wholeheartedly support it. So there will be what, 3 things, right? So one pen pal. So you will be in international teams. There will be on average 7 people on each team, each person from a different country. And you will work on the challenge with them together. You will be communicating on a regular basis. That's your sort of work team. So you will become friends, obviously, but that's your basically business team. But then in addition, people can choose, it's optional, right? So people can choose
optional,
if they want.
Optional.
And we will match them with someone from a whole different country where they will be more kind of personal friends, right?
Yes, exactly. And get to know each other's way of life, get to know each other's culture, what movies they like, what food they eat. I was talking about this in the welcome orientation that I had. My first pen pal was a little girl named Lori, and I really got to know what it was like to live in Pennsylvania. I was in Florida. I had just immigrated from the United States, from the Philippines, so I was a newly immigrated Filipina girl, and I got to know what it's like to be an American through the eyes of this little girl named Lori. I think
I had a pen pal from Czech Republic, so I was at that time in Ukraine, actually the Soviet Union, actually, it was before the collapse. And
Right.
so he was from a city called Brno. And so we were just sending like real letters, paper and pencil letters.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, but it was like 30 years ago, maybe even more.
Yeah. Yeah. I miss writing really nice letters. I think that's a talent. If you guys sign up for the Pen Pal program, really practice what it's like to write a proper letter using the full word, not the letter U for you, but the YOU, and really getting more familiar with your writing style, their writing style, and having the opportunity to convey what you feel through words. Because I think that that's lost now in this world of chat, that you're just sending emojis. And so, but yeah, do you want to talk about the other two?
How about that cooking thing? So that's an interesting one, and I think it would be of interest to people of all ages. So what's the idea there?
Okay, so the idea, it actually stemmed from our virtual picnic. So we thought, okay, well, people were showing us what they ate for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, because our virtual picnic, even though it was 9 o'clock Eastern Standard New York time, it was, dinner time in some places, breakfast at some places, snack time, middle of the night in some places. So what we thought, it would be interesting if those students can show us how to make those interesting ideas or those interesting meals. I know one student was cooking or had eaten a taco for breakfast in Mexico. And I'm thinking, tacos for breakfast, is that like leftovers? And she's like, no, this is what we eat all the time. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, let's learn how to make tacos for breakfast in Mexico, So the process is that you would create a 1-minute video to talk about what you'd like to show, provide us a shopping list, we'll publish that, and then we'll create a webinar, and anybody who would like to join you in your cooking demonstration will have a sign-up sheet in the same way that you have a sign-up sheet for example, the welcome and all of that. And then eventually we'll schedule that in one of these Saturday sessions. You have a coach that's in charge of that. I believe it is Leon and Annette. So you'll send them your videos, they'll vet it, they'll work with you, and they'll organize your cooking demonstration. The virtual tour also stemmed from the virtual picnic that we did. One of the students from Nepal, I believe, he was talking about, he lived in a city, Kathmandu, that had 7 World Heritage sites. Now, I don't know about you guys, but we're not able to travel right now. So wouldn't it be cool if we could travel through the eyes of each other? And the idea is that whoever is representing that particular country, so this student from Nepal, for example, he would take us to the 7, World Heritage sites and tell us what's there. And through the eyes of Annapolis, I don't know if that's how you say it, but a person who actually lives there. And I know for me, when I travel to other parts of the world, when I visited through the eye or with somebody who lives in that area, I see so much more. It's a much more enriching experience. So, and that's the idea, is that we have a much more enriching experience through the eyes of each other's countries.
2 points. One, a person from Nepal could be called Nepalese or Nepali. So either way, okay, I didn't know that. I thought
we learn something every day.
Yeah, I didn't know either. 2, this virtual tour, it doesn't have to be like to a big UNESCO heritage site. I think it may be even interesting if you just show what your school looks like, or maybe your home.
Yes,
I can show you what
yes,
my house looks like, and I suspect it's different
yes.
if you live in a different country. But I would like to know, like, for example, let's say again, Nepal or Saudi Arabia here, or we have people from India, or, you know, all these countries. I'm curious to see, you know, where they live, how it looks like what your, you know, bedroom
Well,
looks like, essentially, right? So with the toys and
so
whatever else you have there. So, yeah.
yeah. So I had that other idea. I don't think that it's the right time to deliver this right now. Maybe sometime in the middle of next phase. So like phase 2, right, during the 8 weeks. Remember I told you about Dollar Street?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could all, and what we'll do is we'll open a Facebook page for that, just for Academy. And we'll take pictures of our front doors
Yeah.
and compare it. We'll take pictures of the view from our windows
Yeah.
and compare it.
That's a very
We'll
good
take
idea.
pictures. So this week will be like week number 5, for example. Week number 5, we're showing pictures of our front doors. Week number 6, we're showing pictures of the view from our window. Week number 7, we're showing pictures of our, you know, this is a thing, our toilets, because toilets are different in
Oh,
different
yeah,
parts
they
of the
are.
world, you know?
Did you know, Lil? Well, you probably know, you traveled enough, but
Yeah.
the Europeans don't know that American toilets are different from European toilets. Like the toilet bowl is a different design. I
Yeah,
can
it's a
explain you
different
the
size.
difference, but it's a very different design. And so people just don't know. I'm not talking about the Japanese toilets. Those are, you know, with the LED screens and
Yeah, exactly. Those are
those are,
science fiction.
yeah, those are, you know, more complicated and probably more expensive than my car, but so still, yeah.
So
But yeah,
fun.
that's a very, very good idea. Yeah. So live and
Yeah, so
learn.
that's another thing that we want to roll out. I think I talked to you about that before. But again, not to overwhelm our students,
Yeah.
but a lot of social activities that I think will enrich the cultural intelligence experience from a social point of view, through interactions and not necessarily through just the business part.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the idea between our social activities. But going back to, you know, we have something planned every week. The idea again
Yeah,
is
the
that we
guest
have a
speakers.
touch point every Saturday, and it might be something social, but we also have a lot of guest speakers coming in who will provide you a 20 to 30 minute lecture session. And again, the idea there is that you're learning from somebody from different parts of the world. Annette has a person from finance that she'll be bringing in. Leon is inviting somebody who is doing conservation in South Africa. I have already invited 2 people. Always my go-to people, right? Friends, very close friends of mine about international trade in South Florida, and of course the hospitality industry in South Florida. And like our global reach is so wide that we can really bring on a lot of people from all over the world. So that's the interesting part about being a part of this community, is you get to see what the whole world really looks like from, you know, the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, but some of the guest speakers, at least in the past, last semester, we invited specifically area experts. So we had one professor talk about international marketing. Another professor was talking about cross-cultural conflict resolution. So they would talk about specific topics that are related to either you working in an international team, or the questions or topics that you need to cover in your ex-culture reports. There are 12 clients this semester. I already posted 10 of them, and we'll add 2 more today. And as you will see, most of them ask for some help with a marketing strategy development, logistics, international logistics, pricing. And so we will be inviting primarily professors, but sometimes industry professionals who will talk about different pricing strategies, different advertisement strategies, different shipping options, you know, maybe something related to the legal trade regulations and things like that. Yeah. Another thing, Leilani, before we get into the questions related to this week's task, let's talk a little bit about our plans related to advancing one's career. And so for the professionals that would be applying for jobs, promotions, basically getting on with their professional career. But for the younger participants, it's more about getting into the college. We get a lot of questions, really, like I'm talking about hundreds of questions, both from students and professionals, that basically say, I will be applying, for example, to college, to graduate programs. And can you, one, give me a recommendation letter, but two, can you also tell me which schools I should apply to, choosing the major, applying for the scholarships, asking for the recommendation letters. Likewise, professionals often ask, I will be applying for jobs. Can you maybe give some pointers, maybe how to do an online interview? Maybe can you take a look at my resume and my cover letter if they look okay? And so we do it sort of on a one-on-one basis. At this time, I'm coaching 5 students from the previous semester who are now applying to colleges. And so I'm helping them with the application letters, with the application essays, with the recommendation letters. But we want to make it on a kind of larger scale. There will be a whole cohort of students going through this program. As you're preparing your application, we will kind of guide you week by week. Same thing for the professionals. But do we want to talk just a little bit more about what we have in mind, and perhaps also explain why I sometimes don't reply, because I started getting emails from this cohort, and it takes so much time to do it on a one-on-one basis. So we are trying to maybe launch this kind of group cohort thing, because I really, like, with the thousands of people in the program, there is no way I can coach everybody individually. I took on those 5 students just to test it, just to see what kind of questions they have, how I can help, so we can develop the program. But Leilani, let's talk a little bit about this, because it seems to be a kind of persistent question. And in fact, it seems that many people apply to X-Culture specifically to
with that idea,
improve their chances of advancing their career and educational prospects.
Okay, so let's talk, let me talk about the first one, which is the recommendation letter for the universities. First and foremost, I want you to understand the significance of your participation in X-Culture Academy. In my career, and I've been a professor now for 21 years, I've never experienced or found something that was extracurricular, this is extracurricular. This is not something you have to do to go to school. This is something extra that you do in addition to the school that you have to do. And extracurricular activities is what admissions officers look for when it comes to what else are they doing, okay? So in terms of the quality of your extracurricular activity, I have to say, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, that X-Culture Academy is probably one of the best. And let me tell you why. Boss, if you could pull up an example of the letters that they get at the end.
Letter that we send at the end of this semester?
Yeah, so he's gonna share that with you. And let me tell you the details that you'll find, okay? Every week, your peer will be evaluating you. That's recorded in a Qualtrics program that we keep, and we report that to you. And then also, we will report to you the placement of your project. And not only that, it tells in detail what components of the projects were completed at that time. So it's such a detailed letter of recommendation that it really does explicitly convey to the reader what skills you worked on during your 16-week session with us.
Yep.
I have never in my life as a professor or have sat as an admissions officer seen something in that detail and that conveyed that much information. So just take a look at
this. Is what you will get at the end. And again, we started doing that automatically, sending it to everybody, just because so many people were asking for these letters. And it takes so much time to prepare each one that it's sort of easier to send one to all 5,000-6,000 participants in X-Culture than to send them one by one. So first you will receive your performance review. That one is only for you. It's not sent to anybody. So here we will talk about basically how you did in general and compare it to the whole cohort that participated.
So explain this one, this segment. Right?
Well, so there will be, as you participate in X-Culture, we monitor your performance, on a regular basis. So we are looking at your quality of the work that you submit each week. We are looking at your peer evaluations. So what your team members tell about you. We are looking at your participation. And each of those is a multidimensional evaluation. Like, for example, when it comes to peer evaluations, as you can see here. So let me see where the peer evaluations are. This particular student. Yeah, so when it comes to peer evaluations, you will be evaluating each other. So you will be evaluated by your team on your effort, on your intellectual contribution, your leadership skills, your collegiality and sort of, friendliness, your overall peer evaluations, and then at the end, your English proficiency, your technical skills, your cultural intelligence. And so this particular person, as you can see, was way above average. Like, for example, on average, people got 4.0 for effort, and this person got 4.5. So that's better than most. So leadership skills, again, 4.5, that is much higher than average. Interestingly, I see this person's English was not really that good. So it was below average. But despite that, the person still got very high scores on all of those. So he really tried hard. And so overall, his peer evaluations are 4.6, which is substantially higher than average. So if your English is not perfect, don't get upset. Apparently, that's not a problem.
And this is a great place to learn that, practice your English.
Yeah, then in addition, I'm not sure why there is a gap here. So probably there was some, yeah, so we evaluate your reports. So as a team, you will choose one of the clients, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You will have meetings with the company. You will, look at the business model, at the questions, but then you will submit a report. And so you will basically try to solve the problem that the company presented to you. And again, that will be evaluated usually by 5 to 7 independent experts. Again, some of them will be professors, most of them will be professors, but some of them will be basically the company that you work for. And so they will evaluate the quality of your work. And again, this particular team didn't do a very good job. I mean, these are still good numbers, but they are below average. So whatever ideas they had, whatever quality, work they submitted, it was not perfect, but it was still decent. So, and then we have some numbers here and some evaluations. So, but this is mainly for you. Then the other thing that we send to everybody is the actual recommendation letter. And again, since we don't know where you will be applying, for now, we will put for whom it may concern. Some students later ask for the same letter addressed to a specific company or for a specific person or university, and we can do those once we have the text. It's relatively easy. But as you will see here, the letters are much more detailed than usual. Again, it's several pages, and it talks first what you did, what kind of project you completed, what kind of skills you acquired, what experiences you had, why it's important. Then there is a little bit review of your performance. Again, it talks not only about how good you were, but it even gives some numbers and provides some sort of reference points compared to the average. And then in the end, we literally have a recommendation. So if you did well, like for this particular person, I say, if the past performance is a predictor of future performance, I expect that this person will do well on team-based international business project consultants in the future. And sometimes I say a little bit more depending on how your performance looks like. And I guess this year, probably for you, it will be with Dr. B's signature. So last year it was just me. And then finally, and again, this got mixed up here for some reason. I'm not sure why. But this is, I think it should be like, I don't know. But anyway, this is your certificate. So in the end, you will receive a certificate that looks like this. Again, essentially, commenting briefly on what you did and then having some sort of a seal of approval from Ex-Culture. Again, if you will be applying for jobs or maybe applying to a university where you need some sort of a document that states that you participated in the project, you will get that. There is another thing that we started getting requests for, and it's a little new, so we need to think about how to phrase it, if what we already give is enough or it should be different. Apparently, many schools, especially high schools, allow their students to take courses online, and those courses would count towards their sort of credits. And now that the pandemic sort of made it necessary to take courses online, more schools not only allow, but require that you take some training outside school. And so we already got quite a few requests from students, including some of you, those who are enrolled now, saying that I'm taking your program because it's a requirement at my school. Can you give me a letter that essentially explains how much academic credit I should get for it? And because in different countries, the way they count or calculate the credits is different. So we started, preparing a letter that explains essentially how many hours you will spend, what you are doing. And so in some cases, the students wanted to be sent to a specific teacher, sometimes to the principal or headmaster of the school, and sometimes even to the district, like the school district or board of whatever, the system is in the country. And so we will probably start including those also as part of the recommendation. Oh, and the same thing, by the way, I got a couple of requests from the professionals. So for people who do it as, non-student adults. So some of them, again, get some credit, but some of them are required to complete additional professional training every year. So they need to complete a couple of courses every year to sort of keep a certification. And so it can be any type of business related training, but they must do it. And then they need to present a document that says, John Smith completed this course. This is how much time it took. And this way John Smith can maintain his accreditation as a, I don't know, business professional or HR specialist or whatever that is. And so we started getting more and more of these requests. So we'll probably also think about a universal format that, provides all the information necessary and then send them to you. It seems like some need it even before they take the project. So they need to first get the information. They will take it to the manager or the teacher or the school principal, who will then approve the course, and they will say, okay, that qualifies, you can do it, it qualifies for your continued education or whatever the requirement. Then they do the course, and then at the end they get the certificates that says the person has completed the course. And some of them really have like the whole wall of those certificates that show their continued education. Others just simply get it, to the HR department, get their check mark, and so they've done it. So that's the idea.
Yeah. So like going back to the recommendation letter, and now that letter that we've started sending out just this past semester, talking about in detail what you do with us when you're at X Culture Academy. That's really valuable, really, really valuable when you apply at the university. Okay.
So many letters from students who say that the problem is that, most of you look alike. Most of you went to school, got good grades, maybe had some internship. Those of you who are older, maybe, got a graduate degree or college degree, again, good GPA, had some work, and everybody has that. So the question is, what makes you different? How are you different? How are you better for this job or for this position? And both employers, but also universities, they look for something special. They will get probably hundreds of applications for each position. And so they want to get the person who stands out. So the person who has what everybody else has, but has something special. And so for the universities, universities have the extracurricular stuff. So they
that's the uniqueness of our program.
But for the jobs, they also want experience. And now the jobs are not only becoming international, but also more and more virtual. So your ability to say that I completed a project with people from all around the world, different cultures, but also virtually, all of a sudden that makes you look much more prepared for this, global and now virtual world, right?
Exactly. So going back to colleges, what makes your portfolio, and you know what Jamie Cassop said, right? In our welcome orientation, if you guys have not watched that, just make sure you watch it in complete. But what Jamie Cassop said, right? I am no longer looking at people's resumes.
Yep.
I am looking at their portfolios. What have they done in addition to going to school for 4 years? Or, he's like, I don't even want to know what education you have, right? Let me see what you can do. Yep. Show me the skills that you have acquired in the process of getting your education. And I think that for us, X Culture Academy really is that one up on the next competitor. With regards to colleges and universities, same thing. If you want to go to Harvard, everybody wants to go to Harvard who can get into Harvard. But what makes you shine? What makes you stand out? Do you have specific things that they look for, talents and skills that they look for, so that they can invest that education in that one particular student? I saw that letter that you wrote to a student who wants to get into Harvard, very detailed oriented. Again, it's all about the extracurriculum activity, which I think is our niche, boss. I don't know if
especially for Harvard, Stanford, I mean, they want more than like the student who Leilani referred to. So he was primarily asking about SATs, so the standardized test, admission test. And so SATs are fine, but you can have a perfect SAT score. In fact, one of our professors, I'm not going to name the name, you know her, Leilani. So her son was applying this year to colleges, and the dude literally had a perfect score on SAT, like the highest possible in theory. Not to mention that he was a winner of all kinds of, you know, spelling bees and science competitions and, you know, everything and everything. He still got into a very, very good school, like really good school. But Harvard, Stanford, MIT didn't take him despite his perfect, you know, SAT scores. And the possibility or the reason could be maybe, you know, they have people with even more unique experiences. He had some. He actually is a good kid. He participated in culture as well. But evidently, they look for even more. And so having something on the resume that is, you know, makes you unique, that's what they're looking for. So that's what.
Yeah. I had one of those kids. I had a kid. Well, I still have the kid. So I have three daughters, and one of my daughters actually applied to Yale, and we were all the way up to the personal interview where they flew somebody down to give her a personal interview. Great scores, lots of extracurricular activities. Didn't get in. She didn't get into Yale, which to me was like, okay, godsend, because you know how much Yale costs? So much money. But in addition to just applying to Yale, she got accepted to several great schools on full scholarships. Yeah. So I mean, okay, so here's the other thing that I advise students, right? You don't need to pay $1 bazillion to get your undergraduate degree. It really is just a 4-year degree, right? I think the master's is more valuable if you're going to get additional education. That's more valuable in terms of investing money into it. And by the way, for those of you guys who are all over the world, getting your master's in the European Union is actually much cheaper than getting your master's in the United States. Okay.
Are you saying that our master's programs are like the one that I lead at my, I'm a director for the Masters of Science and International Business. It is expensive, actually. It is expensive, but are you saying it's not worth it?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it's not worth it. I'm talking about if you are going to pay for a master's degree, right? And you're applying for just American universities, reconsider, because there are equally great universities in the European Union, and sometimes it's more cost effective. Like, you know, a lot of times international students, they have to pay full price to come to our master's program, which is great.
Yeah, so although my plan is the reverse, so I'll see where because my kids are about to go to college, so my plan is to see what kind of colleges they get in the United States. Yeah. But if they get into something super elite that you cannot say no, or if they get full scholarship, I'm seriously considering sending them to Europe for the 4 years, because there it's free. Yes. Well, I still have to pay for the housing and food, but still, you know.
Yes.
But then I thought for the master's, come back to the United States. It's not as long, you know, get it here. And then for the PhD, you usually get a stipend.
Okay, so if they were my kids, this is what I would do. Because most of our children will get in, you know, if you are exceptional, right? Which academy students, exceptional, right? Will get into a local university. I'm talking about in your country for free. So if your children got into a good American school on a full ride, send them there. And then the master's, London Business School, Erasmus University.
That one is actually probably more expensive than an average American school. So you don't get a free ride.
Well, but they might give scholarships. So you have to take into consideration. I mean, don't just go for Harvard, Yale, or Princeton is what I'm saying. Yeah. There's so many other schools. INSEAD in Spain is equally, in France, you know, equally as good, right? So think about what other universities, and again, these are conversations that you and I can have in the future. But I think what you're trying to get at, Voss, is that eventually we will probably do a spin-off from academy, in addition to what we offer in academy, having a cohort of teaching students how to get into good schools, strategizing the finances,
Yeah.
what kind of
All
extracurricular
those good.
activity you
Yeah.
need to have to get into these ideal schools, and basically plan your academic career in the next, I mean, really an academic career, if you're going to go for a master's, that's what, that's 20 years of your life. That's 20 years of your life. So planning, you know, the next, I guess we get them like halfway through, right? Planning the next 10 or so years of your academic career does require some kind of strategizing, and that includes finance. It includes extracurricular activities. How does that affect your relationship with your family?
Letters, tests, all that matters, you know, application essay. So there are tricks and there are some things you need to sort of know to do it right. But
Yeah.
anyway, Leilani, we have a lot of questions related specifically to this week's assignment. So let's get to that because we don't have much time left.
Okay.
So let me share my screen and show you a few things that you need to know for this week. So we have a total of 1,300 academy students. So of those, a good portion are professionals, and then some are teenagers. Plus we have about 5,000 university students this semester. So the university students are split into two cohorts, as we call it, the early track and the late track. So the early track is starting tomorrow, literally. No, day after tomorrow, so forming teams. And so we have about 2,000 of them in the early track, and then there will be another 4,000 plus or minus in the late track. And you, the academy students, you will be with the late track. So you will be starting at the same time, and you will be sort of in the same schedule and cohort as the late track. So now I posted yesterday the challenges from 10 companies already, so the real ones. So for this week, all you need to do is to go to your resource page, so xculture.org/2022. And so here you will see everything you need to see. So for the webinars, when you click here, it takes you, so that's the orientation webinar. Right, so yeah, this is the webinars that we have scheduled for this semester. So we have recordings of some good webinars from the last semester that I thought you might want to watch. And then we started scheduling now the webinars related to company presentations and stuff like that. And so there will be all of them listed here probably by the end of the day. Then you have your training resources. And so for this week, you have to watch a few short videos and then read the X-Culture Academy Handbook. And then if you want to learn more, we also share with you the Professor's Handbook. So this is what your teachers and professors, if you're a university student or school student, that's what the basic instructions for them are. You don't need this, but if you want to know sort of the other side of the story, this is the details. And then also I provide here the training materials that we share with the university students. Again, they're a little different because they get a lot of training through the university and through the course of which X-Culture is part of. But again, if you wanted to see what the students get, that's you know, an optional thing. Then you should have received an email. I sent them on Tuesday. And let me see if I can quickly find one just so that you know what it looks like. But I assume all of you got those letters. So yeah, theory tests. So I'm sending a copy to myself just so that I sort of, you know, make sure that they went through and you know, address it to myself as if I'm a student. I think I completed that test. So if I click on this, I think it will say that the link has expired. Yes. So I completed the test. I just wanted to see if everything's working, but you have a letter like this. You have a few links here to the webinars if you missed something, and then you have the resource page that I just showed, and then you click on the link to take the test, and it takes you to the test. So you have to take the test, nothing difficult. Somebody was asking about the test, so let me open it just to show you what it looks like directly from my account. As I said, I did send a copy of the letter to myself, but since I completed the test, it no longer gives me the access. But anyway, the test looks something like this, Academy. So this is your test. So the system recognizes you right away. So the links you receive, they are unique. So that's your and yours only. So once you click on that link, it will contain your name here, your country. Since I'm showing you a preview, there is no name, but overall it knows that that's you. So you don't need to provide that. And then you basically do the test. So did you watch everything? Yes, I did watch everything. So I'll you know, type here and confirm. So then let's start the test. And so the questions are very simple. As you see this week, we are talking about, and let me go back to this. Oops. So this week we're talking about X-Culture, what it is and how it works. It's not really related to international business directly, but you need to be informed about how the project works. You need to know where to find the deadlines. You need to know where to find the assignments. And so we devote a whole week to making sure that you understand the logistics. Starting next week, the training modules will be about, how to work in a global virtual team, how to use online collaboration tools, some basics of international business. So the questions will be about that. This time the questions are like, for example, when was X-Culture launched? It's a simple question. You don't need to know the answer to succeed in X-Culture, but I want to know if you read or not that handbook, and the answer and the information was there. So if you know it, if you read it, you will know the answer, and so on and so on. So you complete the test, you answer the quick questions, nothing super difficult. It's more of a test of your effort and your sort of diligence in following the instructions. And so, because once you're placed on the team, you will have to work hard for 8 weeks, week after week after week after week. And so we want to make sure that when we tell you to read something, you actually read it. When you're reading this, we want to make sure you understand the language, you can speak in English, you can understand English. So if you are not fluent in the language, or if you're not able to go online and check those training materials, probably you will also be in trouble when the time comes to complete the test. And then you just complete the test, and when you're done, you just click save and submit. And so we will not send you the results automatically right away. So they will be sent to you a little bit later, because some of the questions, we need to read them to evaluate them. Like, for example, in the first week, we ask you to provide a 1-minute video of you introducing yourself. And again, on the one hand, we want to meet you, we want to learn more about you, but also that's our way to evaluate your sort of English proficiency. So we have like a text-based test for the students, but university students. But with the university students, it's a little easier because the professor checks the quality. With you, there is no other way for us to evaluate if you are able to talk to your team. So we use those videos. Again, we need to watch them, all 1,300 of them. Takes time, so it will be a few days before we have the results of your test. So what will happen next is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will evaluate your work. And on Wednesday, you will get feedback on your performance. So basically your test score, but then you will also get the link to the next test. And so the materials for week 2 will be released tomorrow. And then you'll have, again, the whole week to study them and take the test. And then again, same thing next week, and that's basically how it will work. Now, I see we have a lot of questions. So Leilani, I'm not sure if you want to add anything general.
Well, I've been answering some of them. So I think it looks like Itisham Ahmed is a little bit confused about the webinar. So let's just make sure that they understand, right? So every time we hold a webinar, so for example, the virtual picnic, the welcome orientation, we will post that in YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. And then every Saturday, we will have a weekly webinar where we will update you on what is expected this coming week. And right now, we're really focusing on onboarding you so that you guys have kind of the time to absorb everything properly and you don't feel overwhelmed. That's kind of like why we delayed the sign-up sheets for the social events, right? So we just want you right now to settle in, get onboarded properly about what is the expectations, which is why it's really important for you to see the webinars. So if you're not able to join us live, at least watch the recordings, okay? And then
with people in so many time zones, we understand that not all of you will be able to attend the webinars. And the challenge here is that no matter what time we choose, it will not work for someone. The reason we are going with Saturday, 9 a.m., for example, for the weekly review webinars, our experience shows that this time works for the largest portion of students. So 9 a.m., Asia is not sleeping yet. The Americas already up. Saturday, well, you don't have school, you don't have work. So that makes it a little bit easier, but not for everyone. Yeah. There is a question from Nihal about the password. It should be working, Nihal. We have literally thousands of access, thousands of logins into the page every day. So it seems like it's working for everybody. He's saying that it may, maybe it's just me. So what you can do is send an email to academy@xculture.org and we will take specifically a look at your situation. Maybe, I don't know, there is some typo or something else. So we'll try to see what's going on. There was also a question about a Wednesday webinar, and I think the one the student is referring to, we were going to do a webinar with the U.S. Commercial Services, and we will do it, but a little bit later. So they decided to invite several agencies that are, basically are here to help American companies to send stuff overseas, and then foreign companies to import things into the United States. And so the plan was to do it at the beginning of the semester, but eventually we decided to go with October the 7th. And so we'll be sending the details soon, but it will be much bigger than what we originally planned to do. And they asked for a little extra time, so that will be a little bit later.
Yeah. And Dr. Voss and I are actually going to sit down and create a weekly agenda of what we're going to present that particular week, so that you'll have an overview of what offerings we'll have, and then you can schedule it. So if you know that you absolutely want to attend this webinar and it's going to be 2 hours long, you'll schedule that, right? So he and I
also
will
to explain why it's not ready yet. Well, one problem is that most of the speakers are extremely busy, and sometimes it's impossible to confirm the time with them until like literally the day off. So sometimes you schedule something and then they have a business emergency or something else, and and sometimes those things change, and it's not under their control or our control. And then sometimes, honestly, managing a program like this is extremely difficult. We are not a business. We are not a organization that sort of sells something. We are professors first and foremost, and our main job is to cater to students. So there is so much going on with the thousands of students in this program that sometimes it just, literally you just don't have the time to do some of these things well in advance.
So we have another question. We have another question about the Harvard and University of Canada applications from Nihal and okay. So let's talk about X-Culture. Yeah.
Let's cover X-Culture, yeah, because I know you have a lot of questions about universities, and that really will require like a whole year-long course. The plan is that we will start sometime like a year before the deadline. So the deadlines usually are around January. And so we'll probably have to start sometime in January and kind of walk you through this whole cycle from, when you start, because it's not something that can be explained in a minute or two. Mm-hmm. There was a question about the symposium, X-Culture Symposium in the pandemic times. A very good question. And the truth is we don't know. Yeah. So this year we were supposed to be a few weeks ago in Singapore, and then a few weeks from now we had the next one, because we have 2 of those each year. So the big one in the summer, and then a smaller one in the fall, the Northern Hemisphere. And so the plan was to have one in Singapore and the other one in Panama City in Florida. And so both of them had to be not really canceled. Singapore had to be rescheduled, but the Panama City, we decided to go with the virtual option. So we will still do it, but it will be virtual. There will be no real travel for obvious reasons. Then next year, we again plan 2 of them, and I hope we will be able to travel, but nobody can tell. I mean, the situation better than
so let's talk about this, because this is kind of like my little baby, right? The global conference. I project that the next on-ground global conference is going to be in the summer of 2022. And only because I don't believe that we will have COVID or even the vaccine evenly or equally distributed around the world, which will make it very difficult for our students, 1, to travel, and 2, for countries to be accepting us. Yep. So I think that it would be safe to say that 2022 summer could be the first time that we could actually offer a global on-ground event. However, also in 2022, if all goes well, that we can anticipate maybe producing some kind of standalone academy event where academy participants, the young students, will have kind of like a university visit. And so that's something else that I'm working on. A lot of work will go into that, but the idea is that you Academy students will have an exclusive, solely Academy students event affiliated with universities, and the ones that we're looking at right now are in the United States. However, that does not disclude you from participating in Global Business Week when we go to universities. You will get an invitation to vote both. Okay, and hopefully, maybe not in 2022, but 2023 we'll be offering more than one. Maybe we can offer two per year.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, there's an interesting question from Anusha. She says that she wants to study biomedicine, but also is interested in business. Is there a way to combine the two? It's interesting that you ask at my business school, at the Bryan School of Business and Economics of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. We actually have a joint program with the nursing school. So you can get an MBA and a nursing degree at the same time. And the reason for that is that in medical sciences, business is an important component. And so often you would see those joint programs where you study both medicine, or in your case, biomed perhaps, and business, because somebody needs to run those hospitals, somebody needs to run those research labs. And so the business degree here or business experience would be very useful. Second note, in the US at least, most of the universities, you don't decide what you want to study for a while. So you apply, like for example, when you apply to Harvard or any American school, you apply to the university and you may indicate what you want to study, but in many cases, in the beginning, you are one of the many students and you can take courses in any discipline, and only later on you declare your major. You kind of choose what you want to study. Again, sometimes it may be limited, like, you will be at the business school, but you don't know what specific major you will have. But often you literally can take courses all over the place for the first whatever year or two, and only then decide which specific area you want to pursue. So if you're still not entirely sure what you want to study, you have time to decide. And even after you admitted to the school, you have some time. Mm-hmm. There is another very good question related to the symposium: who pays for the travel? It's a good question. And again, it's a complicated answer. The quick answer is you should expect to pay for yourself. So
it's
again,
self-funded.
We are not a charitable organization. We are not a business. We don't have a budget. So we will do a lot of work to organize the event, bring the speakers, do all the program, but we don't have the money to pay for every traveler. But historically, pretty much every student who attends those symposia gets money from somewhere. So for example, we allow you to give us the names of potential sponsors, like your university, your employer. We even had, I remember one year we had like 7 students from Italy who went to the mayor of the city where they lived. And so we gave a very strong support letter to them, and then the city paid for the students. So they came from Trieste. So there was a professor there and 7 students who were paid by the city. We had in Canada, for example, same thing. We had that, remember that Oleg Lesky from Ukraine. So he went to the mayor of his city, and so the city paid for his travel. In most of the cases, universities pay for their students, employers paid for their employees. We always have a few stipends, but again, I don't want to promise. So there will be a few students who will get some money from X-Culture directly, but I don't want to promise it. So don't count on that. It's only
right.
So
yeah.
But we will find ways to help most of the students to get funding from different sources to be able to pay for the trip.
Right.
And as I said, hardly anyone pays on their own. So there are always different stipends, grants, support options available.
So to recap, because again, I will be like the one answering all of those letters or those questions, because I'm the program director of this event, okay? So there are no stipends provided for by Global Business Week.
Automatically.
Yeah, none automatically. You may apply based on your performance to certain organizations, and we will help you by writing a letter of recommendation for you, representing your work, what you bring to the table, how you have contributed, right? And you can, I think, a limited number of people you can put into our request, and then we will generate those letters for you, and then it's up to you to bring those to the right people, right? Also, X-Culture parent company itself will have a very, very limited amount of stipends, but those are, again, coming out of X-Culture parent company. And a lot of those stipends are really for people who do a lot more for X-Culture than the average student. And even those students, they have to compete for those scholarships or those stipends.
Yeah, so there will be a few students who will complete the X-Culture program, then the coaching program, and then serve as ambassadors. Obviously, we pay them, so they actually earn some money. Obviously, we also offer some stipends for the best students. But again, don't worry about it too much now. So as I said, in the past, we were able to find ways to in the end, most students get some money from different sources. But as I said, we are not a rich, organization with $1 million in the bank account that we can spend on it, but we will find ways to help you anyway. There is also a question from Alok saying that can you stream it on YouTube because I had difficulties logging into Zoom. That's interesting because normally Zoom works fine, but yeah, I guess why not? Maybe we should. The reason we don't want to stream it perhaps is because once you stream it, it kind of goes for the whole world and many questions are specific to this program, but I think we can try that. Why not? There is also the question from Sibigya about letters of recommendations in universities. Normally now the way it works is that when you apply to the university, in the application you provide the names of the people who will be giving you the recommendation letter, and then they send an email to me saying that, for example, John Smith said that you would write a letter of recommendation, and then I would write it and attach it and send it directly to the university. It takes a lot of time, and honestly, I spend hours and hours every month just dealing with that. But again, that's one of the things we sort of do for you. So if needed, we will send those letters. So don't worry about it. I'm not sure how it is in other countries, but in the United States now, the university want letters sent directly to them. So
yeah. Okay, so we have about 4 more minutes left.
Let me go quickly through the questions.
Yeah,
So I have submitted my week 1 test results. When they get the results on Wednesday, you will receive them by email. What are the requirements for being invited to the symposium? You have to do well in the program. So we have a limit of 150 students. We invite more because not everyone can go. So usually if your peer evaluations are good and above average, if the quality of work you showed is good, above average, we will ask for additional recommendations and applications. But as long as you do reasonably well, you probably will be invited. Again, it's not for everyone, but as long as you do well, you probably will be invited.
Well, okay, so just really quick, right? You have to come up to be probably in the top 25% of your class. So just, go for the highest, and then eventually you should place somewhere around the top 25% of your class.
Another good question is do you drop students who fail the tests? Not immediately. So if you fail a test, we will let you retake it. But in the end, you have to pass all 4 tests with a score of 80 or above. And so if you do well on some and fail on one, let's say you get a 70, you will be given a chance to redo it. But, we understand that it's not a direct science, like 80, like as I said, as long as you pass all of them, eventually you will be allowed to be placed on team. And if you fail on one, we will allow you to retake it. But again, if you fail, you get only 20. In that case, we will have serious questions about your suitability for the program. Or if you fail the second time, or if you fail on 3 out of 4 tests, we'll have to look at it closer and basically see how bad your performance is. But generally, you must pass all 4 tests. If you fail one of them at some point, not a huge deal. You'll be given another chance. So it will be a kind of more holistic evaluation than just simply one single number. So,
when will you be in teams?
October 4th.
Okay, that means that you pass the theory 1, so phase 1, all 4 quizzes, right, or all 4 tests. And then as soon as you pass those tests, you're placed on teams of up to 7 people. Yeah. Okay.
There is also a good question is that tests are not timed. How do you know that you got it honestly? Well, I know if you got the answers or not. I'm not saying that you need to know those answers without the materials. I actually want you to use the books, the notes, whatever you have there. My logic here is, 1, you took the time to go online and do the test. Important. Second, you found a way to figure out those answers, because the working team will not be timed either. Like even if you have to look for some help outside, or if you have to take 2 hours to answer the question, as long as you got me the answer, I know when the question will arise in the team, you will take that same time. You will look for the help. You will take 3 hours, but you'll get the answer. Plus, of course, we have your 1-minute video where we see how well you talk. And so we also see that you're attending the webinars. So we have a lot of information that show us how interested you are, and taken all together, we have a pretty good picture if you will be able to do well on the team or not.
Okay, so I am, we have to go because I have a coaches meeting in 1 minute.
Mhm.
So Vas, do you want to continue to stay or?
You're doing it in a different Zoom, right?
Yeah, in
Let
my,
me answer a couple more questions here, so we'll go on for another minute or two. So thank you so much, Dr. B. And so there are a couple more questions, so I'll stay for another minute.
okay,
There is a
not
question.
too long though, Vas, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you should come into this meeting
Oh,
with
yeah,
your.
I'll join you in comment.
Okay,
Yeah, let me just go.
bye, everybody.
So we have what will happen when we complete all tests. Well, you will receive your basically, test weekly reviews. And then on October the 4th, you will be placed on a team. And so we will be done with the theory. I think it will be September 20 something. So we'll have a little break between theory and practice. And that's when, by the way, you will have to pay your participation fee. A few of you got the scholarships, but most of you will have to pay. So don't pay until you pass all the tests. If you're not qualified, if you cannot pass those tests, we don't want you in the program. You're not ready, please come again next semester. So we don't want your money. But if you pass all tests, you'll have a week or so to make the payment. We will place you on the team. You will get the names of your team members, and then go ahead. You're ready to start the program. If a team member is dropped, the rest will continue. That's a good question. So the teams are, university teams are usually about 5 to 6 students. And then you have a chance to ask for more if you need more. And we may be able to add the 7th if you are a university student. With the academy students, we go directly with 7 to begin with. And usually it's possible, but unlikely that somebody will drop out. But if somebody drops out, no big deal. You just continue on with 6 people. Or even if you have only 5 left, you just go on. It is a slight possibility that we may have some people on the wait list who join late, very unlikely, but possible. And so if somebody loses a team member, we may be able to add somebody new to the team. But generally, this is the reason we have all these preliminary tests. We want to make sure that people are reliable, that people are prepared, and that they will not drop out. I will be honest with you, when we started X-Culture 10 years ago, at that time, there was no test before the program starts. And so with the university students. And what happened in many cases was that students would, the professor gives us the names of the students, but some of those students drop the class, other students are not ready for whatever reason. And so we form the teams, and then the team finds out that 1 or even 2 students are not participating. So what do? So that's why we have one test for the university students, but we have 4 tests for the academy students, specifically not so much to test your ability to answer the questions, but more to make sure that you are interested enough to stay in the program for an extended period of time. And so in the past, usually once you're placed on the team, people don't drop out. I mean, unless somebody maybe gets sick or, some sort of an emergency, but usually that's not a problem. So there may be some people who are, more active and others who are a little bit less active, but generally that shouldn't be a problem. So don't worry about it. So if somebody got a stipend, does he still have to pay the participation fees? Everybody has to pay. We do have a very small number of stipends that we can give out. As you can imagine, again, X-Culture is not some sort of a rich organization. We are a bunch of professors who spend our own time running this program. There are a lot of expenses from the web services to the accounting services, to the advertisement itself. So obviously we have to recoup those expenses. So there is a nominal fee that we charge for participation, and we rely on those fees to cover our basic expenses. So none of our professors are paid. So we do offer some honorarium to the people who work for us. Like my IT guy gets paid, my secretary gets paid, the accountant gets paid. But in any case, we obviously need that money, to run the operations. But we do recognize that there are some students who just simply cannot pay. Like, for example, we have a couple of students this semester who come from countries where the banking regulations do not even allow to make payments overseas. We have some people who come from extremely poor countries, and even $250 is a lot of money for them. So we look at those cases one-on-one, and so there were a few people who were given partial or full stipends. They already know about that, so they got the acceptance letters that specifically talked about that. So they are a special case, and yes, if you're one of those students, you don't have to pay. Everybody else obviously has to pay because, as I said, we need to cover our basic expenses. So that's, something that we just have no choice. Otherwise, we simply will not be able to offer this program. Like literally, there are some things that we must cover, and without some budget, like there will be no web page, there will be no certificates in the end. So all that has to be covered. Is there a different symposium for university students and teenagers? No, or yes and no. We do 2 symposia a year, and both of them we invite both university students, professionals, and teenagers. Most of the participants will be university students, but there will be several teenagers and professionals. They go through the same program, but there are some events that are only for the teenagers. So we would have several sessions specifically designed for the younger participants. So there will be a few things that you will have that the university students won't. So, and then vice versa, they will have a few sessions specifically for the university students that are too early for the teenagers. But as far as the event, no, it's the same event, same conference. So the one in the summer, it's a self-standing X-Culture Global Business Week. So we usually do it in collaboration with a host university and usually 4 companies. But it's just the X-Culture that does all the organization. And the one in the fall is in collaboration with the Academy of International Business. And so that one is primarily for university students because it's a little bit more about science. It's a little bit more about, so there will be like 400 or 500 professors there as well who present their research. So X-Culture is sort of part of the conference. And so those are probably a little bit less interesting for the teenagers because it's more about kind of research, more about academy. But again, we will invite at least some teenagers. So if you want to be a researcher, you're welcome to attend that one as long as you qualify. So the one in the summer, it's more about business. It's more about applying to universities, more about applying to businesses, to companies, starting your own business. We will visit a bunch of companies. So that one is all about business. The one in the fall, it's more about academia. So it's about universities, it's about research, it's about science. And so both of those sort of are open to everybody, but the one in the summer, that's for both teenagers, professionals, and university students. The one in the fall is probably more suitable for university students, but if you're interested in science, I suppose you can attend as well. Is there a quota for somebody, for example, for an American student or not? I assume that's for the symposium. It's a good question, and the answer is sort of no. We have so many countries that in the end we have a good mix. The only time when we have a quota, that's the universities. So the problem is that we get so many more applications. We get a lot of applications from all around the world, but we get almost too many applications from the United States. And so when professors, not students, not teenagers, not professionals, when professors, universities, when they apply to participate in the X-Culture project at the university level, we are a little bit more strict when it comes to applications from the United States. And the reason for that is that we have already about 1/3, like 30% of all students at the university or in the university track who come from the United States American schools. And so if we accept even more of those applications, we will end up with like half of the team being American. And so since we want the teams to be international, we have a limit on the number of students we can accept from the United States. And so we can go with about 30% of American universities because many students in the United States are from other countries, but we cannot push it much higher. So for the universities, we do have a little bit sort of disbalance, a little bit too many students from the US. But when it comes to the academy, professionals and teenagers, no problem there. Like this semester, we have applications from 104 countries. 2 countries actually are a little bit more overrepresented, and that's India and Pakistan. But that's like, more than from other, but it's not nearly close to like 30%. It's more like maybe most of the countries have like 5%, and India and Pakistan have like 10, 15. So that's still diverse enough that, no team will have 2 students from India, no need for that. So it's still very diverse, so we don't need to have any quotas. Do the university students, professors, and young teenagers compete in solving the same business challenges? Good question, yes. Same challenges, same schedule, same deadlines. The difference is that the expectations are different And when we select the winners, we usually have sort of, like, let's call it a quota. So we know that the MBA students probably will do a better job than teenagers. Although when you look at the reports, it's not really an obvious difference. I mean, I'm not sure if the teenagers who apply to participate in X-Culture are not your average teenagers, but are much more, I don't know, advanced, much more educated. But actually the differences are not that striking. I mean, yeah, on average, MBA students do somewhat better, but not so much better. But when we select the winners, yes, we sort of adjust for age. And so we make sure that among the winning teams, there will be some teams from the teenager group, some teams professionals, some teams undergraduate students, and some team MBA students, because again, you can't really compare that, directly. So the expectations are a little higher for the university students. There are really no other sort of quotas and separation other than also for the teenagers, we used to give some additional challenges that are more kind of age appropriate. Like, for example, we always have this challenge, design your dream school. Like if you were to design a school from scratch, what your dream school would look like. And this one is appropriate for the younger kids. They go to school, they probably like something about their schools and don't like something else. So that allows us, that gives them a little bit something that they are more versed in. We'll always try to have some companies that make, like, for example, chocolate. There will be a company this semester that makes chocolate. Sometimes we have companies that make toys, again, with the goal that it probably would be more interesting for the younger kids to work on those kinds of challenges. But the problem is that when we did X-Culture Kids the first time, we asked the kids to work only on chocolate, dream school, and toys, and they complained. They said, why do you treat us like kids? We want to work on those same challenges from this company that makes cars, or maybe this company that makes clothing, or the company that makes, I don't know, some IT solutions. And so we decided to keep it open so your team will be able to choose from any of the challenges available to the university students. Again, maybe you will not be as skilled or as knowledgeable in some of those areas, but we decided not to limit it, so you'll have access to all of those challenges. Is the resource page login? Yes, there is a login. It's 20202. And so the password is actually in the letter where you got the link. So I'm not sure if it's the same student who had the question before, but to my knowledge, it's working. As I said, I do monitor the access, and over 1,000 people access that page every single day. So it seems to be working. So if it's not working for you, maybe it's something specific to your computer. Send an email to academy@xculture.org, and we will look at your specific case. Do we get a scholarship? I don't know. So most people don't get scholarships. A few people get scholarships. And if you applied and went through the application process and it was approved, you would know by now. So in the acceptance letter, we talked about that. Is tomorrow's webinar, sorry, Barduhi, my apology. The webinar is today. So I made a mistake when I was scheduling it, and I put it for a Sunday by mistake. No, it's every Saturday, 9 a.m., not Sunday. I rescheduled it, so when you click on that link, it will take you to basically the Saturday's webinar. My mistake for a few hours, I had Sunday there, just my stupid human mistake. So how much, let me just, how much will we pay if we get invited to the symposium? Each time it's different. It depends on how much it costs us to organize the symposium. We had one in Miami where we got a lot of sponsorship, so you had to pay, I think it was like $550, including everything. The one in Canada was more expensive. I think if I remember correctly, it was something like $800 for the whole week. Again, included everything. Once you land, transportation, food, housing, all the events, all the certificates, that was all included. The only thing that is not including is you getting to the site. Singapore was actually going to be the most expensive because it's a very expensive country. But then again, we will see where the next one is and how much it costs. As I said, we don't have an external budget. We don't have a grant. So the way we do it is we literally calculate how much it costs us to run it, and then we divide it by the number of participants. We do go to potential sponsors. We do get some money from universities. So we do have some budget that allows us to reduce the fee dramatically from what it actually costs, but there is still some fee that everybody has to pay. As we said, though, almost all students get some support. So university students, usually we help them get the money from the universities. Academy students usually get money from different sources as well. So I don't want to overpromise, and at this time you have to count on you being able to pay for your travel. But in the past, and I hope it will be in the future, almost all students get some money, if not directly from us, then from some other sources. So again, it's on one-on-one basis, and it depends really on where we are going and whom we're dealing with. But the default option is that no, we don't have a separate budget. When we're on it, we literally calculate how much it costs to do it. We invest a lot of time for free, but there are still some expenses, and we divide that by the number of participants and essentially ask everybody to pay. So 256, for example, that was literally a product of calculation where we ran all of the costs, all of the expenses, and so divided it by the number of participants, allocated a few stipends, obviously, and then said, okay, well, it works if we get that much money from the participants. If we have to pay to apply to universities by November, and if we are on our teams, can we say that X-Culture? Yes, you can say that's a very good question. So if you apply to the university before X-Culture is over, do talk to us. We may be able to give you your recommendation letter early. Though I'm surprised that you say November, because normally the applications, well, maybe it's different countries, but in the United States and Canada, usually the application deadline for the international students is in January, sometimes in December, but usually January. And then for the local students, usually it would be in April or May. But yes, we've had in the past situations where students needed some recommendation letters before they graduate. So talk to us closer to that deadline. We will take a look at your performance at that time, and we will write you a recommendation letter based on what we know about you at that time. So it should be fine. The second week resources are not starting. Yes, so it will be released each week. And so we will see, maybe we will not change the password each week now, but usually, people who didn't pass the first test, we sort of ask them to leave and then, release the resources only to those who advance to the next week. But the problem is that, again, some students, as I said, maybe were sick or were traveling, needed an extension. So I don't think we will be changing that. So we will release the resources every Sunday for the next week. And maybe I'll even release the whole 4 weeks in advance. Let me take a look and consult with my colleagues, about what the best way to do it. But yes, normally they will be released on Sunday, and you'll have 1 week to complete it. And then the test links will be sent to you every Wednesday. So you'll have them 4 days to do it. And the reason it's Wednesday is because we need to include your feedback on your previous week. And it takes several days to look at those videos that you did, to read your answers. So there are some things that just take time to evaluate. We have several professors who are working with us, for us, reading your test, evaluating your work, and it takes just time. So it will be Wednesday each time before we are done. And it will be Wednesday, like end of the day. So don't panic if you don't get it, because, don't get it on Wednesday morning, because it does take time. It does take a lot of time. So let me see what else here. Wow, after all the questions are over, we can get some minutes to exchange our social media IDs. That's a very good question. So yes, we will provide the opportunity for you to exchange your social media IDs and get to know each other, but we will do it only at the practical phase. And the reason for that is it's very important. We value your privacy and safety, and we do not feel comfortable or right about sharing your contacts or allowing you to share your contacts until everybody in the cohort has been vetted and we know these are serious, real people. Some of you are fairly young. So even though most of the X-Culture participants are in their late 20s and many are 30s and even 40s, we do allow now teenagers to participate. And we have to take your safety and security and privacy very seriously. And so there will be an opportunity for you to exchange your, to connect with other X-Culture students on, on whatever social media you use. But we will not provide that opportunity until we sort of know that everybody in the cohort is a real person, a real teenager, not some older dude who pretends to be a teenager, is serious, dedicated, motivated. So we want to take all the precautions. So sorry, but at no time we will be sharing your contacts with anyone. So it's not possible to get email addresses of anyone but your immediate team, the 7 people. But there will be a platform at some point where you will be able to proactively sort of connect with other people, like in a Facebook group or whatever you want to do. So good question. We want you to connect with other people, but we have to go through these kind of precaution, steps to make sure that everything's fine, that nobody is, bullied or, you understand what I mean here. So it's very important, and we take these things very seriously. How many questions do we get correct to get a pass on every test? 80% of the questions. Although, as you see, there are more things to the test than just the questions that are right and wrong. So we want to see your, for example, introduction video in the first, test, and it's not something that is direct science. So we want to see if you, for example, can speak English, right? So, so it's a little bit more, not subjective, but there is more to evaluation than just the percentage. Although the basic cutoff is 80% of the questions right, you're fine. So what if a teammate made trouble and about the countries and disturbs the teammates? Happens very rarely, but if somebody is unprofessional, if somebody is bullying team members, calling names, behaving inappropriately, obviously that person will be out of the program immediately. So we do not tolerate any unprofessional behavior. So if there is evidence that the person is not collegial, not professional, not respectful, we don't want those people in X culture. So again, that's why we have all this selection period. We want to make sure that everybody is, the right person for the program. It's not a business where we sell you something and you pay us and we're happy. No, it's a team-based project. And so for us, it's very important that everybody has a good experience. And so the selection phase is very important because one person who is, as I said, disrespectful or maybe lazy, irresponsible, or maybe uses language that is, not, professional. So that means that there will be 6 other people who will suffer, team members. We don't want that, so that's why we go through this elaborate selection process to make sure that only the people who are truly qualified are, participating. It does happen sometimes, but it's extremely rare. Like we have 6,000 students every semester, and out of the whole cohort, including university students, there may be maybe 2 or 3 cases when the team sort of has a conflict where something's, like legitimately not right. But overall, that's not a problem. The bigger problem is that some students get busy with other things, with jobs, with school, and perhaps don't participate as actively as the team expects them to. And so that's where it becomes a little tricky because, do you exclude them just because they were busy this week or do you give them, another chance? So, but that happens more often. Most teams will have, not most, but many teams will have like a student who perhaps is not working as hard. And that's a problem. And sometimes it's so bad that we have to exclude, but usually it's not a big issue. Other questions, easy for the first week. Well, you already have the link to the test. Just click on the link, take a look at the questions. You don't have to complete it all at once. You can read them, then go, study, then come back and do the test. So, but yeah. Will the pen pal given to every member? No, only to those who want one. So there will be a form. I'll send it out today. And you can sign up for those programs, and then only those people who have the time and want to participate, they will be given the opportunity to participate in that pen pal program. We're doing it the first time, by the way, so we are still testing and trying to see how it's going to work. We had a lot of requests for that last semester, so we want to try this time. We'll see how it works. Hopefully you will like it, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But if you apply, yes, you will be given a chance to have a pen pal in addition to your team. Wow, so many questions. I need to go to that other meeting. So in the weeks to come, will some of the tests be timed? No, all of the tests are not timed. And as I said, it's a matter of, it's not testing your knowledge or ability to memorize stuff. It's testing your ability to get answers. And because in the team, you will have as much time as you want. You have a final deadline, but you have 2 months to complete the project. And we don't care how you get to those answers. If it has to take, 2 days to find something, that's fine. If it takes you, if you have to talk to your maybe parents or colleagues or friends to get the answers, that's fine too. Because for the real project, again, we don't mind. Go ask people. In fact, we encourage you to go and ask and, read some additional books and, have your notes. As long as you can get those good answers, that's all that matters. And so the same thing with the test. So we don't care how you get to those answers as long as you can get them. So that's the test. And that's fine if you're perhaps not knowledgeable to know the answers right away. If you take the time and effort to find them, that's what counts. What's the introduction video about? In test 1, there is one of the requirements. You need to record a 1-minute introduction of yourself where you say, hi, my name is Vas, I'm from this country and I do this and this, and then upload it to YouTube and send us that, or to any, Dropbox, private, iCloud, and send us the link to that video. And it tests 1, if you can speak English, like literally we want to see you talk. Second, we want to see how good you are with technology. X-Culture is all about online collaboration. And so you will have to do a lot of online meetings and online talking and online resources. And so we want to see if you are capable of recording a video, uploading it to the cloud, finding the link and sending it to us. So it's just essentially a test of your technical skills as well. Nothing super advanced, all of you can do it, but if you can't, that tells us, well, maybe the student doesn't care enough to Google how to do it. Or maybe the person is not capable of doing a simple task. Or maybe the person doesn't have access to the internet that is good enough to upload a video. And so all of those would be problems when you work in an international team. And so that's all part of the test. What is pen pal? Well, I'll send you the invitation. You'll take a look at it. But as an option, you may choose to have a friend, a pal. A pal. The word pal means like a friend, and pen is a pen. And so that's the friend with whom you correspond by pen. I guess now it would be like keyboard pal, right? Not a pen pal, but that's the idea. Will the second week test be as easy as the first one? Well, if you find the first one easier, so it will be equally difficult, right? So for some people, it's not perhaps that easy, especially if it's a foreign language. It will be a little bit more technical because the second week deals with the teamwork. And so there will be more questions about, team leadership and communication. So it will be a little bit more technical, a little bit more subject matter. But no, we are not trying to make them very difficult. As I said, it's not so much about the questions that you're answering. It's about us seeing that you go and you answer the questions, that you go and do the research, that you go and record that video, that you do it all on time. So that's sort of the main purpose of those tests. And obviously that you understand the questions, that your English is fluent enough, that you can answer those questions. So, so it's a kind of more comprehensive test than just whether or not you know when X-Culture was founded. Will the pen pal? No, pen pal, it's not related to your project per se. The goal of X-Culture is to provide you with an opportunity to meet people from other countries and to basically, learn about other cultures, learn how to work with people from other cultures. And we are trying to provide as many opportunities as possible. The main sort of mode will be obviously your international team. But in addition, if you have, if you want to learn more about other cultures and maybe get more involved with one culture, well, pen pal, that will be your opportunity here. Will there be more videos in the tests? Not sure what that means, Michaela. Like, will you need to create more videos? No, that's just the one that you need to create this time, but there will be videos that you need to watch to pass the test. So if that's what you meant. Will we communicate with our client companies too? Yes, Harleen, you will communicate with your client companies in two different ways. One, we will have webinars with each company. And one webinar will be where the company introduces itself. Then the next webinar will be where you have to, have an opportunity to ask questions, get feedback. And some companies like ZenCV, they want to do webinars every single week. Like they're so interested in your input that they want to meet with you every single week. You don't have to go to each of those webinars, but the company founder will be available. I think it's every Wednesday, if I remember correctly. He will be available to talk to you. So if you have questions, he will be there for you. If you want to get some feedback on your ideas, he will be there for you. Most of the companies do 2 webinars, some do 3, but again, some apparently want to meet with you as frequently as you want. And then obviously the managers, the CEOs of the companies are busy, so some people cannot afford that. But at the very least, in addition to the webinars, there will be also an opportunity to send an email and they will answer. So again, you have to be respectful of the time of your company CEOs. Some of these are big companies, like really big companies, like for example, Wine and Truffles Company. That's one of the biggest wine and truffles companies in Australia. And so obviously, you cannot expect the CEO to be available for you ever, all the time, but they will be available to you at least sometimes, and you will be able to engage with them. Yes, YouTube is not a secure site. And so for your video introduction, you can either make that video private or, as I said, any other video sharing resource will work. You can put it in your private Dropbox and send me the link to the Dropbox. You can put it in your iCloud, Google Drive, whatever other more secure method you want to use. Obviously, that's a good question. And no problem at all. So all of those are good. Will we send any videos of ourselves with the second test or not? No. So the first one has a video introduction. That's the only one that we need. Is there a minimum requirement for attending the webinars? Good question, Michalina. No, but we do keep track of what webinars you attended and may take that into account if your test results are sort of borderline. Let's say you passed 3 tests and you failed 1 and you got, let's say, 70 on that test. So it's kind of almost 80, but below it. So at that stage, we will look at whether or not you attended the webinars. And if you've been to all of the webinars or many of them and participated actively, otherwise we'll think that probably it's okay. We can accept you because even though one of the tests you maybe had some difficulties with, but overall you seem to be interested enough. So it's not required, you don't have to attend them, but when you do, it may help down the road if we are in this situation where sort of a difficult decision has to be made, because again, it's not a direct science. I mean, like not exact science. Like if you 80 is an arbitrary number, could have been 81 or 75. So therefore we kind of look at it a little bit more holistically before we decide on who qualifies and who doesn't. So yes, try to attend those webinars, but don't worry if you can't attend some of them. Will there be a choice? Yes, you can choose any company you want. I posted 10 challenges already. If you go to the resource page, there are 10 companies already, and there will be 2 more added today. So we're just still working on some of the details of their challenge, so there will be a couple more. Pen pal, again, I answered that 5 times, sorry. Is there a possibility to send an introduction video through email or not? No, it's too difficult for us. Again, remember, there are more than 1,000 of you. And so I don't want to get 1,000 emails and open them one by one. But you can provide a link to any or through any video sharing services. So as I said, you need to figure out which one you want to use: Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, I don't know, iCloud, any of those are fine. And so again, it's a test to some extent of you figuring out how to share a video with us this time, but you may need to share something like that with your team later on. And so we want to make sure that you have the necessary technical skills to figure that out. All right, so it looks like we are out of questions. Let's stop here. Good questions. We'll see you again next weekend. And yeah, good luck on test 1. I see many, in fact, most of the people already done with the test, so good job. But if you're not, you still have today and tomorrow until the end of the day. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for your questions.